people?
Yo.
Garden report time. Jimmy Toscano coming in hot.
Coming in real hot.
I know. You got us
Coming
going.
real hot.
False alarm.
Hotter than
You
hot.
gotta come in hot for real though now.
I just meant I was coming in hot, like right up against the clock hot. You know what I mean? Like, you guys were like, "Oh, let's get your take. Let me give me your takes." I'm like, no. I actually don't have any takes.
You got me
We thought you
excited.
had something burning.
I've got a few takes. I mean, I've got a few takes, but nothing that's gonna like scorch the earth. I was just coming in trying to make this time, which I did. So shout out me.
You need Bobby to say something to upset you in order to get a hot take.
Which I bank on. Well, I'll bank on that a couple times.
I bank on a couple of those. Yeah.
Yeah.
I only need to have
that here.
I only need to have two or three opinions of my own, and then I just got to wait for Bobby to speak.
Yeah, and just bash Bobby, and then everyone in the comments gets all bent. So leave Bobby alone. Leave Bobby alone.
I know.
He does it to himself, folks. He does it to himself.
I think it's gonna be hot right out of the gate here, but
well, we'll see. We'll see. I don't want to promise anything. I don't want to promise anything. Couple things we're going to talk about for sure. Celtics and NBA training camps open up on Tuesday. Media day is Monday, so we get to see how awesome Rob looks. For one, and Tatum's muscles. We get to see that. Yeah. We get to see that.
We haven't really seen Rob doing a whole lot, like in the social media game, right? Unless I've missed
something. That can be good though.
No, I'm fine with it. So it's going to be exciting. He might
Yeah. I was waiting for that one report.
I need a cold towel.
No, just all I wanted was one report with like, oh my God,
right? Like
Rob's been working out. He's doing the Rocky IV training in the friggin' mountains.
Right.
In Siberia, and he's just.
We didn't quite get that. Instead we got
chopping wood, right?
Instead we got he's hoping to play 60 games this year.
Maybe 60 sounds good.
From Bobby's story.
B minus.
Yeah,
I think that was a mistake, but.
Yeah, we're hoping he can compete this year.
Yeah.
Put his best foot forward.
Yeah. So we have that. So we'll talk about some camp questions. We're going to talk, of course, about we've got lists. We love lists. We're going to talk about
what's going on. Finally,
top 100 list. Well, now this is real. Like one way or the other. Starting next week, we've got actual stuff to talk about, which is going to be first chance to look. Bobby's haircut. I just noticed. We're going to talk about that.
What'd you get? A little tight fade? What do you got? You on there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's really tight on the sides.
Real tight. I need to actually get a haircut.
Military grade.
That's why I have my hat on. I need a haircut very badly.
I like to be comfortable. You get that little feeling. You get to rub it. People like. It's nice.
You got to rub it.
Yeah. I look like Shia LaBeouf and like Even Stevens with my hair right now. I'm just keeping the hat on. I'm trying to get a haircut next week.
Trade Rob for Cat. Yeah, we're going to talk about Karl Anthony Towns. Mysterious tweet. The Towns tweet. And
the WTF.
We'll excuse Joe Sway. He's at the White Lotus in Hawaii right now, doing who knows what with who knows who. He's a secretive guy.
I gotta get the whole. He's been very quiet on the group.
Yeah,
and
I'm just by myself.
I'm
just going to Hawaii. Okay.
Yeah, nobody just goes to Hawaii. You know what I mean? Like, come on. We know what's up, Joe Sway. If you're watching right now, we know what's up. Somebody's out there.
Yeah,
no, it wouldn't be solo.
Somebody in the mainland. Yeah, he's gonna show up to a beach bar by himself and just see what happens. Like, come on.
And Professor Sherrod is grading papers. If he jumps in, that will be a treat. But in the meantime, you've got us. So we will definitely kick it, chop it up for a little bit and see what sticks here. But we will start with the latest Ben Simmons stuff, which is just almost funny to me. This is a classic case of like, you're not breaking up with me, I'm breaking up with you. Like the Sixers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Sixers
you're breaking up with me?
No, the Sixers couldn't have made it more clear they want nothing to do with this guy. And so then,
which I thought was premature on their part, but it's not my decision.
Probably
because now they're screwed. They're screwed. The way that they treated the situation right when it happened, like obviously the way they lost, the way he played, in my opinion, they all alienated him right off the bat. This was inevitable. This was inevitable.
They did a horrible job.
Horrible job. And the fans, the fans are the fans. They're gonna trash them for it. And there's no love between either side or all three, fans don't love him. He doesn't love the fans. The team doesn't love him, and he doesn't love the team. So, like, this was inevitable the way
but
things
it's
ended.
so dumb.
No, it goes back further too.
But it's so dumb to publicly
really
burn an asset like this.
Right.
It's asinine. Like,
Doc?
Look, both of them, Doc and Embiid. It's a business. Like, you gotta treat him like he's the most important person on the planet right up until the moment you trade him, and then say, thank God that guy is gone.
Well, I don't agree with that, because I think what Doc said was obvious and everybody knew it. So it didn't matter what he said or not. It was just a moment of honesty.
Keep it in house.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's good for the media.
We want these guys to say how they feel.
We do. It's bad for business, though.
How does that make sense for the Sixers' point of view?
Was what happened going to happen?
Because you lose leverage. You lose leverage.
Do you think they go into negotiations and they go, well, we wanted him until Doc said he can't be a championship point guard? Like, it was always going to happen.
You're just tipping your hand.
You're tipping your hand. You're making a bad situation worse. You are alienated Ben Simmons. Maybe it wasn't as bad to him. And then after he was like, wow, okay, I'm really getting thrown under the bus here. F these guys. You get
one Simmons report in the offseason that says he's not going back there. Gone. Your leverage is gone. His hurt feelings are what kills your leverage.
Yeah, and also, it does go back to the Harden trade too, which was obviously the first time they tried to deal him, and that's where it seemed like the relationship really died. But you can even go back multiple years with this as far as the conversation of can these two coexist goes. We weren't hot on it a year ago because he was out for that series and he was injured, and it looked like he was pretty important to what they were doing once they got swept by Boston there. But I'd say it's probably been 3 or 4 years now that we've talked about, all right, can these two coexist? We've certainly talked about his shot since day one, and it's only devolved into more issues with his approach to the game, the way he fits himself next to Embiid there, and just his overall approach and dedication to things as we've learned more different people talking about his work ethic, but we've tossed around the videos of him shooting, and it just hasn't translated. So I can't just pin this all on one playoff series, one comment that has sent the sauce for him and the Sixers, because there's obviously a little bit of both sides that have ruined.
It's not. It just makes it harder. It just
goes way back. Yeah.
You just make your situation harder. Like I said, it was poorly handled because they made it clear that they were fed up with him at the end of the season. When Doc Rivers is asked a question outright, like, can you continue with this guy? And he answers, I don't know.
It was so dramatic. It was so
wrong
dramatic.
answer,
like, dude. Like,
wrong answer.
That was a bad look for Doc. I mean, really, you're a players' coach.
It was so stupid.
Was it wrong though?
It doesn't matter.
Bobby,
it's not the issue.
I'm pretty sure didn't Doc come out begging on his hands and knees today, saying like, "Oh, forgive me, I was misquoted. I take it back." Like, I mean, didn't that kind of happen today? So I think the answer.
I think they're in trouble now. But
I think that answers your question right there. If it was right or wrong, I mean. If you're supposed to be a quote-unquote player's coach, you're really not known to be an X's and O's coach. So which coach are you? And I just think it's a bad look, kind of a bad look for the organization. I mean, if you're another star player, and your coach is throwing you under the bus, the other star players kind of throwing you under the bus. For all the warts that the Celtics had last season, we never really saw the players, at least the star players, publicly turning on themselves.
I do think Embiid was misquoted. I don't think Doc was.
No, you're not misquoted. You can't be misquoted on television. You can be misquoted. It doesn't work that way. It does. You cannot be misquoted on live television. You can be misquoted in print only. You can't use that excuse.
Well, here's what happened.
You're not misquoted. You said it. It aired live, raw, uncut. That's not a misquote. You may have misspoken. You can't be misquoted. That only applies for print.
No, that's true. That's true for Doc.
It's such a terrible excuse for Doc.
No, that's true. That's true for Doc. It wasn't true for Embiid because he went on this long tirade of all the reasons they lost, and one of them was Simmons passing up the dunk, and they packaged it together to make it look like he was saying
that's not what happened either.
Up on dunk, and everything went south from there.
It's not what happened.
He emphasized that point, but that was
they said, where did it go wrong? He's like, well, to be honest, it happened right here. What was the turning point? He's like, well, when we passed up a layup. He said a bunch of other stuff too. But that was a single answer to a single question. What went wrong tonight? And he said, well, we passed up a layup. I think I thought Jimmy was frozen.
I'm reading the quote. No, I'm reading Doc's quote today. I mean, basically, he was on a show today, and
No, Trump. I mean,
after this series, Rivers was credited with saying that he wasn't sure if the Sixers could win a title with Simmons at point guard. That's not what I said. Actually, Rivers interjected Wednesday. This is when narratives ... and this is what makes our jobs hard. I actually said when the guy asked, I'm not answering that stuff right now. I don't even know how to answer that. So what I was talking about was not answering the question. It had nothing to do with Ben. I don't know if any of that's true. That would be some crazy editing.
I remember him saying,
I remember him saying that. I don't know too.
Yeah.
But I wasn't there at the press conference, so.
But look, again, we always talk about this right and a wrong way to handle it. If you're Doc Rivers, the right way to answer that question is Ben Simmons is one of the best players in the NBA and an integral part of our team. So naturally, anything we do going forward is going to involve Ben Simmons because he makes us better. That's the right answer. The wrong answer.
John wants all cliches for the rest of his life.
Like I said, one of my favorite.
They never fail.
One of my favorite moments, because, I mean, the Patriots are obviously the best at this, but when I was back at NECN years and years and years ago, and Teddy, this was the game with the Patriots, I think it was that playoff series where the Colts hadn't punted the whole time, and it was like, ooh, Peyton Manning. And Teddy Bruschi was a live guest. He was in our studio, and he's talking to us beforehand, and he's like, we're going to bury these guys. He's like, I'm telling you, it's not going to be close. He's saying all of this stuff behind the scenes. He's like, we've got his number. We know exactly what they're going to do. We're going to absolutely murder them. And we're like, oh my God, this is going to be the best interview ever. He goes out there and he's like, oh, Peyton Manning's one of the best and blah, blah, blah. He walks off the set. And we were like, what the hell, man? And he goes, just cliches, man. Yeah. That's it. He's like, that's all I say. He's like, we're not going to say that. But they went out there and buried them. So, yes.
No, this is my point.
I mean, that's what Bill Belichick does. Bill Belichick will rifle off 40 players and he'll talk for 10 minutes about, the backup outside linebacker on the opposing team. And then I'm sure he walks up the set like, I just
they're great in the kicking game, great in special teams.
And then they go and they murder them by 30. So it's like,
no, but let's be real. When it comes to these trade negotiations, the debacle that the Sixers are in, this is on Simmons and everything he hasn't done, everything that he's done to diminish his own value on the court, and the route that he's taken with his role on this team. Now, we can go back to those hiring conversations and say Simmons had a point. You want to give up on me? Then this is how I'm going to carry things here. But my point is he was doing the wrong things long before that happened. Like, this is a 3 or 4 year devolution for Ben Simmons here, where I think the rest of the league right now is looking at him and saying, we'll take him if he's a flyer. We'll take him if we have to give up nothing.
And
but
that's
we don't
where
want this guy.
And that's
no one
where you
wants
see
this guy, and that's why he's still on the Sixers.
Well,
because
again,
he's not that great of a player.
So disagree to a degree. You make me. You force me to to advocate for a player I don't love, but to say he's not that good a player, I think is incorrect.
Don't you think someone would get him if he was a great player?
No, because the contract is tough for a lot of teams because he doesn't do everything you need him to do. At the end of the day, maybe $42 million is the wrong price for a guy like that. If he was making Jaylen Brown money right now, the offers would be everywhere. I think the money is a big issue right now. He's making $42 million or whatever it is.
And
that's
a
huge issue.
Huge issue. I think maybe, obviously a little bit attitude might be an issue. I think that's kind of leaking out now that, it's kind of been the story around him is that maybe he's not the most intense player. He doesn't maybe try the hardest out on the court or off the court. Maybe he's not super passionate about basketball the way some other guys are. I mean, all those things have been out there since he was in LSU and he couldn't hit free throws and everyone was questioning that stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. But I think when you go back to when that playoff series ended, the things that were being said about Ben Simmons, I think that's kind of where me and John were like, whoa, wait a second. Like, this guy had a bad series, but let's not forget, he was considered, a top 5 defender in the NBA. Like, he does do other things
He's the best defender in the NBA.
Right. Sure. I was just tossing him in the
Sure.
top
I'm
5,
just saying.
Yeah. He's all NBA.
He wasn't in that series, though.
Sure. But everyone's thinking micro, and, like, that's just what we do sometimes. And I think what we were saying was, wait a second, he's still valuable in many other ways. Now, obviously, the contract's one thing, and I think opposing teams are just trying to chop the Sixers down a little bit on what they can get because they know that they've
lost their leverage.
They have no leverage. So there's a lot at play.
They've tipped their hand, obviously, that they tried to get rid of him, both in the hard negotiations and by bashing him on the way out the door, or at the end of the playoff series. And they've upset him to the point that he's flat out said, "I'm not playing for no matter what." So now they have to trade him. You're in a terrible position if you're the Sixers. So all of the stuff they did by not coddling him and making him unhappy and making him tell the world he doesn't want to go back is what killed them, not his play. What killed their negotiating, their ability to negotiate now is that they alienated him and created a situation where he didn't want to be there anymore.
Do they have to trade him? Because it's going to get interesting once you get to games here. He'll take, I think, the fines for training camp like amount to $1.3 million or something under the CBA. It's nothing compared to his salary. Once he starts missing game checks is when it's going to get interesting, because I think Morey is really dug in on this, and you gave him credit for this, John, like setting the bar so high with the trade value. That's the only way you could salvage this situation. And now that they're still seemingly at rock bottom in terms of his value, do you lose a ton by like really taking this to the NBA regular season and, taking these game checks away from him and like making this really ugly if you're Philly? Because you're going to lose no matter what right now. Well, I think that's where this is going to go. They're not going to trade him for Malik Beasley.
Well, no, they're not going to do that. But
it's going to be not that low.
No, it's going to be very toxic and ugly if he ends up having to rejoin the team just so he doesn't miss his game checks. There's not going to be the cohesiveness. There's not going to be, the team unity. It's going to be like very awkward
because they have stakes.
The fans are going to boo. The fans are going to be on his ass the second he doesn't take a shot.
So
you know what I mean?
Celtics fans.
So like I think that's what me and John are saying. It's like there's really no other option but to trade him. So at some point, they might have to take a little bit less than what they would be able to. But I mean, Malik Beasley level. I mean, no offense to Malik Beasley's taking some ricochet shots here, but. No offense, that's not going to be the level of...
No, like McCollum, I think, is the floor, I
don't think the Blazers are going to trade McCollum.
I'm just saying, I think a player like that is the floor. Yeah. I think all of these... Every offer you're seeing theoretically out there is kind of like...
We've reached John Wall.
Right. Not the guys I really like. Like, you're talking about, like, even in Sacramento, it's like, not only is it not...
but think about like
Fox, and it's not Halliburton. You're going down to friggin' Buddy Hield and
it's past Halliburton.
Bagley,
so like
yeah. Well, the Sixers have
and you're like, you're gonna take Bagley and Hield, like they're in the we could live without
it's
these
a salary
guys.
Dump. You take our bad money, we're gonna take your and Simmons at this point. It sounds crazy to say, but I think this is the position Philly's in. He's a bad contract. They're going to have to dump him. Houston doesn't want to trade picks for him. Yeah,
you think they're going to have to add picks, right?
Philly might have to add picks to get something back for him because his value is just that low relative to the contract.
So, like, every offer you're seeing now is kind of like that third-level guy, like Brogdon from Indy. Like, everything is like,
But don't you guys see why I lost my mind when we were talking Jaylen Brown? I mean, we're talking about John Wall, Malik Beasley, CJ McCollum's a great player, and they're not going to trade him for him. But like, we're getting low here.
Once again,
we're talking about skill. I think we're comparing skill players, and if you look at what each player does well, if you look at where they are in the rankings right now, all these rankings are coming out. They're very comparable. Sorry.
Again, that's what I mean is like, I know fans like to yell and scream and like, oh my God, I would know he's so much better than this guy. Panels of experts around the league, personnel people who are polled, GM people over and over and over again. Every time you're talking about where does Ben Simmons rate as a player, it's usually higher than Jaylen Brown up until this year. So it's not, I'm saying it wasn't insane. I would never trade them. I don't like Simmons. I like Jaylen's game much better. Jaylen's contract is incredible. I would never, if I were the Celtics. Again, it was just simple pushback against, oh God, I wouldn't even trade him for smart talk, which was like, come on, guys.
What Bobby said, by the way.
Yeah, we've got to recognize that he still does a lot of things at an elite level. I just don't like him.
But here's my thing about the expert panel.
I don't like him. I don't like that he can't shoot. I don't like that he refuses to get better. I don't like a million things about him. But like,
when he does well, he does really well.
But he has elite trades.
Yeah, and that was true in the past, Jimmy. And I think what makes it so difficult to trade for him now is we saw him hit rock bottom, 34% from the line, unable to defend on the perimeter against a Young on switches and stuff like that, not taking shots in the fourth. Like what amounted to one of the worst playoff series we've ever seen from a star. you look at that and you ask, can he bounce back from that at all? Or is that like going to be the end of him here?
The problem that he has yet to, at any point in time, address, the only thing that's holding him back as a player is the thing that kind of, makes you doubt if it'll ever happen. However, with Rondo, it did happen eventually.
But that's Rondo. How much did Rondo make in his prime?
I'm saying Rondo was the most frustrating player because he could do everything so well, and it was literally a choice with him, whether I'm going to try tonight to either do everything or play defense, whether I feel like passing to this guy or not, or if I feel like even spending 10 seconds working on my jump shot in the offseason. All of these things were like, it was there if he wanted it. And with Simmons, for a person to be as athletic as he is, to not be able to get a passable jumper and to just swallow his ego and accept, I'm going to be a below average shooter because that's the best I can be, but at least I'll shoot some. I don't know what it is, the fact that he just refuses, if it's ego, shame, whatever, but like, just be as good as Marcus Smart, who's a 38% free throw shooter in his life and a 33% three-point shooter. These are awful numbers, but he shoots and he's not afraid to shoot, and it's useful to have somebody out there who's willing to shoot. I mean,
that comes later in your career too. And I feel like Simmons should be at that point where he kind of goes into a little bit of
he's a little later at this point. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's not like first, second year guy. And in Rondo, I remember Rondo said it in that All the Smoke podcast last year. I listened to it. He's like, yeah, at some point I just said, like, wait, this dude's shooting, I'm gonna get mine. Like, I'm gonna start shooting. And then he just started shooting more. And the more he shot, the less times you were like, don't shoot. So who knows with Ben Simmons? I mean, he might start shooting and everyone might be like, all right, we get it. You suck at shooting. Stop shooting. Maybe you won't harp on him as much as shoot. Maybe you can get into some of the stuff that he does well again. And you won't have to hear about, he won't shoot. He won't shoot anymore.
I think the key is going to be for him to go to a situation where there's just no expectation, no eyeballs on him, no attention really, and for him to just play. They don't worry about playoff games, winning a championship. Those
you
kind of questions.
You keep saying that, but like I said,
wild.
That to me is this.
But that's the only way you're going to be able.
If that's what he wants, then okay, I guess.
That's the most out of nowhere take, because no team that isn't trying to contend.
But what if he goes to the Rockets?
Yeah, I don't think that's happening either. I think that's two clutch clients who have big salaries that both teams are trying to get rid of, that get paired together because it makes sense in some universe, but not in a basketball sense.
The Rockets,
for either team. Yeah,
it used to be like the hottest offense. They were like, they'd score like 130 a game, and now they're centered around.
How funny would that be?
Fans would just go.
And I hate that trade idea.
Right, the shoot always to shoot never team.
yeah. Not only that, but they couldn't get Simmons.
No shot is a bad shot.
They couldn't get Simmons trading James Harden away, but then on their salary dump, John Wall, they end up getting him back. It'd be so crazy. God. But yeah,
no, the go hide in Orlando thing makes sense, because no team that's rebuilding is going to pay the $40 million for this guy. So he's never going.
Sacramento too.
He's not going somewhere obscure. Sacramento would do it because they think, this is my best chance at a star, and I think it'll make me better. So I'll give up some assets and some picks.
Yeah, but I would count that as an obscure place.
To pair with my young stars, fine. That might be the only place, because they actually have a couple people.
In Toronto, I count Toronto as that too, as much as I love them. Great developmental spot. That's where I'm rooting that he'll go, frankly, because I think that would rejuvenate them. It addressed the Siakam thing. I just don't know if Philly would be all that interested in Siakam, given where his value's at, because this thing for Philly is probably going to turn into a bit of a, all right, let's get the best assets we can for Simmons that we can actually flip into things we need now, because it's just so clear that they're not going to get what they need to contend right now in this trade outright, because it's just so limited. And this is like, it is a money thing. I think money's at the top of the list, but right there with it to me is the fact that these teams look at it. All right, we got to bench him in crunch time. Maybe he's not going to shoot. We can't pair him with the center.
There's people
in the playoffs.
There's people on the floor at all times that aren't great free throw shooters that you don't bench. Like I said, Simmons'
many teams, he'd be one of multiple. And I hear like
I'm saying Simmons' numbers are the same across the board that they've always been. He didn't all of a sudden become a guy that you have to bench in crunch time. Him not being a great free throw shooter is a problem for sure, but he's about 60%, like I said, for his career. That's where he was last year. He just had an abysmal playoffs. It's not ideal, and yes, he should get that number up to 70. I don't think that's beyond the realm of possibility. I also don't understand if you can shoot a free throw, how you can't shoot a jumper. But anyway, it just makes no sense to me. Like if he was shooting free throws underhanded, I'd be like, okay, I get why he doesn't take jumpers. But like you're doing it.
I just don't think there's this big mystery with him because like I hear all these different podcasts laboring about finding the perfect location for him and if someone could maximize him and this like. There's 30 teams in this league. If someone was in love with him right now, they'd be offering the world to get him. And it depends. Doesn't seem like there's a single one.
It depends what you view him as. If you view him as kind of like a 4, and reinvent it, and you've got a point guard, and you have other things, and you have spacing and shooting, does he?
But isn't this what you said
there?
About Smart? You're like, oh, you can't go in on a guy because he does a little bit of everything, and he really hasn't had to do one thing in his career. It's the same thing.
No, it's not, because like I said, Ben Simmons is legitimately elite at multiple things, and so he has that. He has elite athleticism, speed, transition, defense, and ball handling, playmaking. He does things at an extremely high level on a lot of things. Having him on the court for the most part is beneficial to your team. He does positive things all over the court, okay, at a very high level. He just can't freaking shoot. That's it. That's that. And so it's a bad thing. It's a shooter's league. It's a big thing.
The one thing that's kind of important.
And it's not that he can't shoot. It's he won't shoot. Like I said, if he was Marcus Smart can't shoot, but he shoots. Ben Simmons won't shoot. That's his problem.
What other sports? Maybe Ben Simmons is better at a different sport. I mean, if he can't shoot, that's the real.
KOC
every other thing
with
he's
the wrong
good
hand,
at,
right?
Yeah. Every other thing he's good at, you can probably apply to like, I don't know, soccer, football. I mean, you don't have to shoot anything in football.
Or you could do every like betting site's putting the Shanghai Sharks on there as if he's gonna end up over there. But anyway, this guy's baffling. The big question is for you two. The Celtics have been mentioned. Interested, maybe?
It doesn't make sense. There's no way you take on that salary. You're not moving Jaylen or Jason for him. There's nothing else you can move unless you cleared every other player out. And even then, I just don't see that. It makes no sense. It makes no sense on any level for the Celtics.
No Jaylen, Jimmy?
No,
never.
No. I don't think you would. I mean, I know like months ago I was kind of playing devil's advocate more than anything else.
That's all we did.
Yeah.
If it came down to it, I'm not doing it. I do think, listen, Simmons is probably the best player available in the league right now. So I think it's in every NBA's team's interest to at least kick the tires and see what they're looking for, what's possible.
I think that's all that is.
And
Jeff, for the sake of a couple people in the chat here, can the two of you dispel the notion that I was advocating a Simmons for Jaylen trade? We were just simply playing devil's advocate here against.
It was hard to tell at the time.
What we were really doing was bashing.
Give me a break.
We were kind of bashing Celtics fans and basketball fans who were like, "This is the most ridiculous, lopsided, stupid idea that I've ever heard of in my life.
Curran
never happened."
It was one tweet we were talking about. And that was, Tom Curran tweeted it once, got his ass kicked. And all we were making fun of is the people who piled on Tom Curran, whose brains couldn't handle
crazy.
Whose brains couldn't handle the conversation.
Right. Let's just have the conversation
the
about
way we laid it out is in a less insane world, with everybody with their green footy pajamas, a conversation could be had here. And you could say rationally why you don't like the move instead of, are you crazy? And people lost their minds over it.
And that's all it was. And apparently some people still aren't over that, which is fine. But
they're not over it. But
if it comes down to it, no, I'm not going to make that trade. But I'm also not hanging up the phone if the Sixers call offering, letting us know that Ben Simmons is available via trade.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if there's some sort of way to make this possible without giving up Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown and whatever. We'll see what they can figure out here.
There would be a parade.
I think it's highly unlikely. I'm sure there's another team that's out of the division or the conference that they might ship him to, and that's going to be that. And maybe it's one of your cellar dweller teams, Bobby, that it will just fade off into.
Well, here's the big thing about this, and I I don't know if we've said this specifically, but this is why, like, you should be thrilled as a Celtics fan, is because he kind of did develop into the ultimate Tatum stopper, per se. Like, I don't think anybody...
Tatum's game is not made for Simmons. Jaylen gives him way more problems. We saw what happened this year.
No. I'm saying Simmons gave Tatum major troubles on defense.
That's what I mean. But Jaylen tuned him up. That was one of Jaylen's best games, that 40-something point game where Simmons could not stay with him at all.
You know, they were working out together recently? Simmons and Tatum. Simmons and Brown were working out together. Somebody sent me an Instagram.
Best buddies?
Like, video of them working out.
That's all we need is a clutch
California.
Brown signing.
Where was Jaylen's best friend, Jason?
I didn't see him in the clip. He was probably taking
He's at the golf tournament.
He was probably taking the video, but he wasn't there. But Tatum and Simmons were working out together.
Tatum and Beal were golfing over the weekend. If anybody was still following,
are they friends?
Yeah,
they're friends.
And again, how insane the Sixers thing got was that people were like, I wouldn't even trade him. Like I said, when the conversation became, I wouldn't even trade him for Smart. We were like, all right, guys, come on.
Bobby still feels that way.
I don't know.
Bobby still feels that way.
You get some of those things for 17 million versus pushing 40 the way it is there.
Like I said, the money is the killer. I'm only talking about the player.
Yeah,
sure.
And the player on a different contract is someone who can help you in a lot of different ways. 42 million.
The key difference is that willingness to shoot, and that's what's made Smart who he is, and that's what made Simmons. Smart's made a couple of conference finals. Simmons hasn't made one.
Okay.
Oh boy, yeah. Greg Kite made it to the finals a couple times too.
Come on,
okay? We're not talking about It's you could be the 5th or 6th most important player on a team and make it somewhere, and you didn't make it to the finals. Your team did. So come on.
Speaking of Smart,
they also lost.
Let's move on. We will get to a couple different things here, but among the things we're talking about,
it was a lot of Simmons talk. It was a lot of Simmons talk.
It's interesting just because it is. It's a baffling situation, and it's a rival. And it is if you like
shot to a better team.
If you like Schadenfreude and you're a Celtics fan, which most people here are, you get to.
And if you hate Sixers fans like everyone does, then you like rubbing it in their face a little bit. They have a horrible situation. It's
bad, but they still have Joel Embiid, who's on this list should be what, 3, 4, 5. So.
I saw one tweet that said the process resulted in Seth Curry being your second best player. Congratulations.
Seth Curry was so good last year. He was.
Yeah, it was totally worth it.
But if you throw Simmons onto the pile of other busts they've had with all of the picks, it is shocking.
3 GMs, one of them out because of Twitter nonsense. Like, it's just been a joke. That whole run there, oh my lord!
Our guy Fultz,
the coaching situation
from Fultz to Okafor, you have missed
Nerlens
Noel on some massive swings and misses. Massive. It's actually hard.
Difficult.
It's harder to screw it up than it would have been to get it right.
Yeah, seriously.
I bet you guys don't even remember Zaire Smith.
Of course.
One of their guys. Like
we were talking about
got
that
on the court for him. Yeah, for them. Yeah.
Let's move on. We have lists. We like lists. We're going to talk about lists. And again, it's not so much the rankings that we find interesting, just in terms of the conversation is interesting because
where they put Smart. That's
well, no, there's multiple things that are interesting about these rankings. Both SI and ESPN did it, and it's good fodder, and it gives us stuff to talk about. But really, it comes down to this. It's impossible to rank Jason Tatum much higher than this. You can spit out 10 names without even blinking that are clearly the upper echelon players that you're hoping Tatum would get to. I actually think the gap between 10 and 15 is actually really fairly wide. Those 10 stars are like, oh man, I wish, and that's what you want Tatum to get to. And that's what you want Tatum to get to. And you're waiting for that year. We said at the beginning of last year when Tatum was ranked 11th on the ESPN list, right on the cusp of that top 10, like, whoa.
We asked the question, would he be in the top 10 the following year?
Can he get there? We don't have the ESPN number. We have an SI 13. I find it hard to believe that Tatum could crack the top 10. He didn't make all NBA.
Nope, he won't. And I'm pretty sure I predicted that he wouldn't. But I didn't say it was like, oh, he's going to be awful. It just means like it's not easy to be a top 10 player like at that point in your career.
Top 15.
But
I think I said it would depend on how much they win, and they didn't win nearly as much as they needed to win.
And they get dinged for that. Even if you thought he was slightly better at the end of the year, at the end of the day, I can't say last year's Jason Tatum was markedly different than the year before. Overall, he might have made some slight improvements, but he needs to take another step to get into that elite conversation, or else they're not going anywhere. They'll never be a championship caliber team. The whole point of talking about these things is it goes as far as Brown and Tatum take it. And everybody likes Tatum and Brown, but as the 15th and the 25th best players in the league as your top two pair without much support behind it, that team's never getting to the finals. These guys have to be 7 and 12, 7 and 15 to be a duo that carries you on their own. They have to be that good to be able to carry you. So you need another, as good as they are, you need another level from them to take another leap. So maybe this is the year.
Well, the thing that gets frustrating about the All-NBA thing is like the whole positions that still ended up playing it. Like, you'd rather have Tatum than Gobert, right?
Yes.
You'd probably rather
we already
have
know
Tatum.
John's answer to that.
Yeah.
You'd rather have him than
Smart.
You'd rather have him than Kyrie, I think.
Yeah. What's your point?
So I'm saying, like, that's what got tricky there with the All-NBA.
Is Kyrie? Okay, gotcha.
I do think Tatum's pretty firmly going to be top 15 going forward for the foreseeable future, just off his importance in terms of the position he plays and his two-way abilities here. It's just when you look at and I know we don't have the top 10 in front of us, but we know who's on it. Like your Jokic's, your LeBron's, your Giannis's, all these different guys, KD, they handle the ball at such a high level. They create at the highest level. And that's still like he's waiting at the door. He's trying to get into this top 10. He was sitting there last year. He was sitting there again this year, even though I did think at the end he made major strides. But he didn't make it in that one area that the team really needed him to for them to be productive as a unit. And I do actually think this is probably a fitting spot for him. Like, it's hard to argue for him over even like a Jimmy Butler still, because Butler just has that innate ability to make everybody around him better. And that's still what carries him at the highest level on this list, is the facilitating. And Tatum, like, it's so tricky this year because is he even going to have less of an opportunity to do that this year? I know that Ime wants to put the ball in his hands more, but they also have more point guards and more guys that can do it around him. Like, I don't know if Tatum's ever going to get to that level where he's getting 7, 8, 9 assists a game like a LeBron, like a KD. Like
I don't think he needs to.
Top of the list.
I don't think he needs to.
You don't think that's what he needs to get into the top 10?
No. I think Tatum needs to be just 10% better at all the things he already does really well. He just has to. Yeah, I just think he
can do that next year.
That's all I think. I think Tatum has
10%
to be.
10% is not a little number when you're doing what he's already doing.
That's what I mean. Is like he's got to be at 30 a game. He can't have those nights where he just doesn't take, where he disappears, where he doesn't take a shot for periods of time, where he's just settling for the easy way out. He has to be a bulldog. Give me the ball and get the F out of my way scorer consistently. There's too many games where he just looks like he shrinks to the moment or just lets other stuff happen and passively. He's got to be unstoppable. That everyone's saying he gets a little more muscle. He refines a couple things. He gets to the line a little bit more, and he's just a problem. He has to be a god. We got to play this guy, and we know he's going to light us up for 35 every time you play him. He's actually close.
I think he's coming into the year with a little chip on his shoulder too.
I do too.
He thinks he's a little disrespected on a national scale. I mean, even down to his 2K score, I think, or his rating in 2K. Like, I think,
and he's got to be a better defender.
There's little things that you hear that he's kind of feels like he's been on the short end. So I think he's going to come in with something to prove. I hope that translates to wins, because at the end of the day, that's really what people want. And I would expect. Yeah, I would expect definitely a better year and a more consistent year out of Tatum. And the other thing that we hadn't mentioned, and we usually at some point do, is the COVID season kind of screwed with him a little bit. It definitely took him out of his rhythm, and he had a little bit of a longer recovery than some people did. And hopefully that's a thing in the past, and that doesn't come back.
Right.
For him.
But I do think there's a good comment here I just wanted to mention. I agree with this wholeheartedly. I think the playmaking stuff is vastly overrated. Like, every time we watch Durant play, we're like, that's what I want. And it doesn't mean.
But we've talked about how he's not Durant.
I'm saying it's hard to be Durant because nobody's Durant. He's arguably a top 3 all-time NBA player. So
number 3.
That's ridiculously hard to compare yourself to the best scorer ever. Yeah. But what you want the way Durant takes over games by just being like just unstoppable. That's what you want from Tatum. Do that. I'm not saying you can do at that level, but that's the type of player you want him to be. It's impossible to be at that level because there's only one Kevin Durant. But Durant is not great because he's improved because he has more assists one year or he improved this. That's what makes him great. He's an absolute force. He's 6'10". He can't be stopped. Tatum has a lot of the stuff, there to be. I don't know. I want to say similar, but as in that mold of a player.
Yeah, there's parallels. It's not exact just because of the height difference there and the length difference. Yeah. There's certain things Durant's going to be able to do, such as shooting over pretty much everybody, playing the 5 a lot. I don't think Tatum plays the 5 at all. So those are the key differences just in terms of what Durant can do across the board compared to Tatum, who I think at just a little bit shorter, is going to have to really be a lockdown guy on the wing, which Durant isn't anymore. Durant's going to slide over the 5, defend the rim a little bit. He was not the same defender last year, but Tatum's going to have to do those things because he's not 7 feet and he's not going to be able to play inside like a Durant and shoot over guys to that degree.
It's different, but he still can. He's got a wingspan and he is, he's a 6'8" and he's extremely long. And, it's again, nobody is 7 foot shooter like Durant, with that kind of athleticism and ability to get a shot off. I did want to mention here our sponsor again. Bobby, you got it? You wearing it today?
Not today. It's in the wash.
Oh my God.
Mine's actually, listen, I was hoping that Bob's would be on because mine's in the wash too.
The best news about this
I wore it all week. I was out in Syracuse. It was raining. It was
the best news about this is you don't have to wash it because I haven't washed mine yet.
Well, you don't work out in yours. We work out.
You're not out and about like us. You're in lockdown still.
I put it on for these shows.
Yeah.
No, but I wear it. I've been wearing it.
It's a good lounge shirt too, for sure. Absolutely.
Legends brand apparel. Legends. Go to legends.com. Use the code GARDEN20. Save 20% on your first order. This runs through the first week of October, so get after it. Athlete-owned
it's apparel. Coming up.
It's coming up. Athlete-owned apparel brand. And comfy, active wear. You work out in it. You wear it around casually. You do whatever you want. Definitely worth picking up some stuff here. We got the workout shirts. We got the shorts with the liners. Very cool. And
I was wearing the shorts earlier.
Yeah.
Now I'm not wearing any. I'm not wearing any shorts right now. So.
Yep. So please help us out. Support our sponsors. Head out there. Yeah. Check it out again. Legends.com. Code GARDEN20.
Only no free shows, guys. No free shows here. Yeah. Okay. This is real. We need you guys to buy this shit.
Yeah. Only with that code.
Only with that code. GARDEN20.
Do you get the discount? So you got to enter it. Please do.
Right. If you don't know, I always keep my eye on the weather.
I want to see the receipts
rain this weekend. The lows of 50s next week. Never mind that deadline for the code. You're gonna need it with this bad weather coming in. So go get it.
I'm following back some Celtics fans on Twitter who screenshot me a receipt with the GARDEN20.
Everybody, but nobody cares if I follow them. But maybe you, Jimmy. Maybe a celebrity like yourself.
Jimmy's got the check mark, right?
Cool guy like me, right?
Yeah.
You can talk to me on Twitter.
Joe Sway just got his check mark. He's very happy.
Did he? Is that why he bombed to Hawaii?
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Now we figured it out.
Got my check mark and I am gone.
The check mark used to be cool. He's late. He's late to the game. It's not even cool anymore.
It's not even cool. Now there's something like secret behind the scenes.
I'll sell my check mark to somebody interested. Send me an offer.
So moving off of Tatum, Jaylen Brown inched up the list a little bit. He's 27 on both ESPN and SI top 100 list, which at first reaction, Bobby was like, wait a second, that's low. I think it's about right. I think you can argue a few spots in either direction, but this is kind of the tier I think that Jaylen Brown still resides in,
it's the median.
which is a great tier. It's all-star level. He obviously didn't really get all NBA votes. So again, there's a lot of people that you're kind of swimming with in these waters, and this is kind of where he is. And again, each year he's gotten better. Year after year, he kind of keeps climbing up this list a little bit farther. I think he was in the 30s last year. How far can he go?
On the SI, yeah.
We've talked about this before. What is his ceiling? Top what player?
I would say top 20. I mean,
yeah,
like
I think
20.
he can push. I think he can push pretty close to that All-NBA list. Again, I've said it. He's not that far behind Tatum. I mean, Tatum does have that edge on him. He's got that elite scoring ability that pushes him closer to that top 10 range.
There's a difference, though.
In terms of all-around game, and certainly Brown's defense, it really went bad last year in that regard, but if he can become a lockdown defender, like Kawhi, the way we imagined his ceiling being back then, that definitely gets him closer to that top 15 range back then. Again, I think he can pass Jimmy Butler in the next year easily. If Towns never becomes a defender, I could see Brown becoming a much more valuable player than Towns. So I don't think, like, we'll never see him in that range of, like, all right, is he one of the best players, a franchise cornerstone, like those top 10, top 12, 13, 14 can be. But we see guys on this All-NBA list who I don't think are championship centerpieces. Is Jimmy Butler going to be a centerpiece on a championship team? Like, he's really, really good, but I don't know if he gets you quite there. Same goes for Rudy Gobert. Brown, I think in time can become a little closer to that. I hesitate to say that he'll be like the number one on a team that's contending for a championship, but
exactly,
the position
and that's
he
why
plays,
we put him in the 20th range.
This is a pretty good comment on Tatum here by Francisco. This is kind of like in the eye test thing. Why I struggle to put Tatum any higher than he is, or why to value him more than we do, is there's too many games where he's, like I said, almost disappears. You know,
how many first halves does he put up like a goose egg?
And so, like, at the end of the day, the numbers will look good, but overall, you wonder how much of an impact he had on. He needs to have an impact, like a high level impact on more games. There's too many where he disappears for entire halves or this or that, or just has how many times did he have a shooting game so bad we were like, wow, is this the worst game he's played? There was like 5 of those last year. There's just too many of those. You just want to see fewer. You want to see even if the lows weren't as low, the overall would be so much better. I think that's a huge thing for him, is he has to avoid those games where it's like, he was awful tonight, you know? And I know every star has us from time to time, but he had a ton last year where we started the shows where like Tatum was awful.
Well,
you know?
I think we've been pretty much like we've called that out many times on this show. I think that was our biggest gripe was the inconsistencies, the slow starts, like the fact that the Celtics are not good enough to go 2 quarters without Jason Tatum contributing in some capacity.
They weren't, yeah.
And then they would make that late third, fourth quarter charge and then come up short, right? So they would lose respectably in the final score, but in reality, they were out of the game midway through early on in the second quarter, let's say. So that was the biggest problem that anyone watching this show, and I would imagine most Celtics fans who watch the team, that is their biggest problem with Jason Tatum. I would say on a national scale, people might not be as keen to that, but certainly if you followed the Celtics last season, that has to be your biggest gripe.
I like this comment too. We talked about it a bit. I think a show ago, maybe 2 shows ago, that we're talking about mid-range I think mid-range is making a comeback. I do think analytics I'm not boomer sitting here saying analytics are bad. It makes perfect sense why threes are good and shots at the rim are good, but you are clipping people's wings a little bit in terms of letting things flow naturally. Tatum's gotten stuck in between they tell me they want me to shoot more threes thing. And I think part of that reason is why he disappears from time to time. Is like, can I just go to work? And whatever happens. And,
but we've lost our mind at too many mid-rangers too with him.
We have. And again, it's a matter of being overly reliant. A lot of times I think his goal is to set a guy up for a step back, whereas his goal should be, if I can beat this guy off the dribble, I'm taking it. But if he's giving me space, I'm pulling up, and just do the dance, like you're supposed to feel out the defender. Not Tatum in his early years as a scorer, I think, had too many predetermined moves. He knew exactly what he was going to do and was doing it regardless of how the defense was playing him, and it resulted in some ugly contested shots. I think sometimes he kind of goes back to that, which is like, this is all me setting up for the step back. That's all I'm doing here, and I've decided it now. I just think he's just got to kind of feel the moment when he's got it, when he's, take it down, get it going downhill. If he needs to, he's got to be able to shoot that mid-range. It's a huge part of his game. I do think when you're saying it's either here or there, you are eliminating creativity and the ability for them to kind of access their greatest talents. Look what Brown did from mid-level last year. He's a freaking assassin.
Yeah, early on, and then it came crashing back.
It did.
That's the problem with that shot is like the ceiling of it is like Chris Paul and Devin Booker and what they did out there too, the best at it. And you get to 48% is.
But you need it. You need it when everything shuts down, and in the playoffs when things ramp up, it's hard to get buckets, and you need it in the hands of your best players, and they have to go to work. And a lot of time, the best shot anybody on the floor is going to get is that contested mid-range jumper, and those are the guys who are going to do it. So yes, when people
work best for Tatum, and what I was going to get at a few minutes ago is like, how do you counteract? All right, yes, he did have all these games earlier in the year where he would disappear for halves and things. How do you balance that against the historic things we saw him do later in the year, especially in the playoffs when it really counted? Yeah. And what he did during those stretches is just barrel to the rim.
Yes, and I love it.
He started barreling through people and getting to the free throw line 10 times a game. Body control around the rim improved enormously.
But that takes work. That's the thing is like you see stars later in their. What we were saying about Tatum is you don't want to have the affect of an older veteran player this early in your career. You get the hard buckets now. You start taking it to the basket. You play through contact. You get you get to the line and you play tough. And you see people when they get older, they're like, can I just shoot, from out here? You don't want him falling in love with that as a 22, 23-year-old. You need him to get a little nasty. I'm glad he got a little bigger, and we'll see him in person on Monday at Media Day. But he needs that. He's got it. You're right, Bobby. Like when he goes, huge difference.
And he needed the support too. I think we look at the width of this team, the depth rather, and say that like you're going to have more and more. And Zach Lowe was saying this on his podcast last week. You just have more players across the board on the Celtics this year who are NBA players. And I do think helping the load Tatum was carrying last year was a huge problem, and him especially regressing on the defensive end of the floor. Yeah, I'm not as concerned about the mid-range. And frankly, like even the creation, I think he's gotten to a good enough level where he just needs to get back to being one of the best defenders in the league, which is what he was 2 years ago during that playoff run in 2020. He was phenomenal on the defensive end, borderline all-NBA guy, or all-defense guy, I thought. So
I think defense
really.
I think defense is more important than playmaking for Tatum and Brown.
So that's what I'm looking for from him this year is to get back to that lockdown defense that he showed.
One quick thing, and then I'm done with this. I was just gonna say, like, I understand the like you guys like 3-point shots at the rim, all that stuff. I think that's more for like the less talented players in the league. Like I feel like if you're a top 10, 15, 20 player, you should have free reign to just get your shot wherever it is in the court with the idea
go do basketball.
It's going to go in. Yeah, I mean, if Tatum's taking a mid-range or if anyone in this, whoever, name a star, Giannis, whoever is taking a step-back jumper and it's a 15-footer, I'm not saying,
but remember how he played
it's a low
in
percentage shot, you dummy. Like, I mean, if these guys are the best players in the world, let them shoot wherever the hell they feel comfortable shooting. If it's open, it's open. If they can get open at that spot, I'd rather than take that than Tatum everyone in the world knows he's dribbling the ball and gonna take a 3-pointer. It's a guy right in his face and then he misses it. Yeah. So I'd rather you work for your shot elsewhere.
You just don't want to be over-reliant on one thing versus the other.
That goes for anything.
But you're right. It's a good point you make, Jimmy. Like, it is, right. You don't want Semi Ojeleye, like...
Exactly. I was going to say
contested
exactly.
pull-ups, right. Go stand in the corner, shoot your 37%, and be thankful
and that's
for
why
the
you're on the
opportunity.
court and play defense. That's a 3-and-D guy. Or not, Jason Tatum is not a 3-and-D guy. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, they should be able to... Here you go. Here are the keys to the entire court.
Talking about the Bucks X Factor next year.
I know. I am. Who else did they sign? They signed another. Oh, Waters.
Tremont Waters, yeah.
A couple of X Factors now. Speaking of
more ways than one.
3-and-D.
Do we want to talk about Smart's ranking on this list?
Why? Yes, I do.
So glad that you asked.
So then the last guy, and always the most polarizing. All right, first I want to say two things.
Who's ready for 25 minutes?
I'm not doing it.
So these are the only three guys on the.
So what I will say is this.
No, Rob Williams.
Rob was a snub.
Rob snubbed both lists.
Right.
Listed as like the first man out on the SI list. What I will say is this lacks foresight. Both of these lists are projections into the top 100 players for the season because a rookie made the ESPN list. So for everyone to be so dumb and not recognize Robert Williams'
greatness.
I mean, Jesus, the last thing you saw from him was blocking 70 shots against the Nets, on one leg. Like you can't project forward a little. And again, this all has to revolve around health. This has to revolve around health. It has to revolve around health because it doesn't make any sense that you would not consider Rob Williams a person about to take a leap.
Yeah, you'd like to cut some guys who are definitively on the downturn, your Porzingises and such. Yeah, Rob probably should.
Porzingis keeps making it way too high. Give me a break.
You know who didn't make the list last year? Julius Randle.
And he's like 40 now.
Yeah, so you can make those types of leaps. So just because Robert Williams was shunned by the national media doesn't mean that they're in for a little bit of an awakening.
This is the last year of Rob Williams' existence on planet Earth that he doesn't make one of these lists.
Ivica Zubac, I think, was on both lists. The Clippers center there.
That's just crazy.
This is the last year that Rob inhabits planet Earth that he's not on one of these lists.
Just remember, we liked Rob before it was cool.
Before it was fashionable.
Before it was cool, yeah. Before everybody started doing it.
Doris Burke was hot on it early on.
She was. She loved the time.
Doris, I can't take my eyes off this guy,
Easy, Doris.
No, but she was like, but he's captivating. You're like, watch this guy. He does these crazy things like all the time,
That screenshot Greeny posted the other day from the Spurs game where his
head's
dunk. 10 feet over the rim.
He's looking down on the rim and he's dunking it almost like this. Like he's churning butter. It's literally like that.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. They had that infographic because his hand was up by the top of the backboard on one of those dunks. I think that was against the Pelicans. He just had a few of these iconic games early in his career, but it's just like Tatum. And it's way more concrete than Tatum in this sense. How many empty games are you going to have? And empty games as in you don't play at all. In Rob's sense, that game's played for him. We see the incentives. We see his personal goal. There's no way that he can just keep flashing and have these amazing games. 10 great games. They're 9-3 in his starts when he's playing a tiny percentage of the season. He's never going to get into the top 100 if that's the kind of player he is here. So he's got to have that 70. I think that's what we said last week, right? 70 games played would be money for him, and it literally would. He'd make $400,000 on that.
Yeah.
And they got Valanciunas at 94. I mean, he's not bad. He's a good rebounder, but
he was really good last year.
I'll take Rob though.
Yeah. All right. Now let's get everybody mad. So the list comes out, and the SI list comes out first, and Marcus Smart is 60, and I'm thinking, wow. That's kind of high. And then the ESPN list comes out, and Marcus Smart is 49. However, to be fair, he slipped 12 spots on the ESPN ranking, even though their explanation was he's the same guy, but he got dinged for the team's success, being a little bit older, whatever. Maybe the team defense not being as solid as it was last year and being hurt. He missed 20-something games with the calf, and that was why he got dinged. It's still 49. I'll let you guys go.
I'll go. I mean,
really good players.
There's a lot of really good players that Smart is in front of right now.
I'm not going to sit here and just bash Marcus Smart, but I think that a lot of his value is what he brings to the team, and not so much what he does on the court. Sometimes, especially with the way he kind of gets into a shooter happy mode at times and kind of can shoot you out of games. I think the defense, I think everyone would agree the defense took a bit of a step back last year. I think even Marcus Smart might even agree with that.
Part conditioning, part injury.
Yeah, sure. Do I think he's a very, very good, solid player and a contributor on an NBA team? Absolutely. I think 49. To say that he's in the top 50 might be a little high for me. I think that he's probably closer to like maybe 75 or something like that. Just putting this entire game together. And I know he's a strong defender overall, and I know that he's a good leader and all those things that we talk about ad nauseum, especially Celtics fans love to talk about. But when you look at some of the players around him on that list, I think skill-wise they might have an edge.
Yeah,
that's just what I'm going to say about
this
that.
This is why Sherrod's not on the Garden Report tonight. He knew we were going to talk about Marcus Smart, and he's like, I'm not going to be dragged down with these guys.
You can't be on the Garden Report, period, if you're not ready for that. I mean, it's like we're like 10 years running here, Marcus Smart Network. It's interesting, and the ESPN list, and I obviously went deeper on the SI one. There's a handful of guys, Malcolm Brogdon, Lonzo Ball, guys who we were specifically talking about trading Smart for over the offseason, which is interesting in its own right. John Collins, who I was very, advocating heavily for at the trade deadline last year, moving Smart for it. And, Jeremy Grant was great last year, say guy. So there,
Jeremy
I
Grant's
think that
ranked higher.
He's
right?
53.
He's 53. So they're saying that Smart's better than Jeremy Grant. I don't know how many NBA teams are taking Smart over Jeremy Grant. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, Jeremy Grant had a pretty damn good year last year.
Yeah, I think the SI one's more in line with where Smart is. And I know John still thinks that's a little high, but you look at the salary, I think he's in that 60, 70 range. He's going to slip further to 70 as guys start making more than him next year, and he actually slides into that contract spot. But I don't think he's much higher than he actually is on that SI list. And I think he's definitively a top 100 guy. I don't know if that.
I think so. I think he is a top 100 guy. They wouldn't be 50. They're not 50.
He's higher than Kemba.
Points off.
I think that's
we all know why that is. Kemba's on one knee, and they don't know what to expect.
I don't know anybody knows what to expect from Kemba, right?
Exactly. With Marcus Smart, you kind of know what to expect, unless what Ime Udoka was saying is true, is that they're expecting Marcus Smart to sort of change the way he plays.
I'm going to ask this because this is where I get stuck on it. I'm not going to there are 30 NBA teams. For Marcus Smart to be the 49th player, that would mean he's good enough to be the second best player on like a dozen teams, which does not compute. It does not compute. He is a guy, even ardent Celtics fans think is best suited to be a sixth man. He's a guy who's only been inserted into a starting lineup because either in the last couple of years because of injuries or massive attrition, but really has spent most of his career as sixth man and is about the same player. In fact, maybe a tick worse last year. So how do you go from a sixth man, a person who's the sixth best player on his own team, to 49th overall? Seems really high. Are you telling me you can't go team? There's not two. At the very least, there's not at least two players better on almost every team, and in some cases, three.
Someone just said Tristan Thompson's top 400. But yeah,
so that's why 49 is. You're talking about Marcus Smart would be the second best player on any team right now. Is that true?
We have this conversation all the time. If we're talking about Marcus Smart's offense, all right, he's ranked like close to 200 or whatever it would be, maybe even lower.
Right.
Isn't his defense top 15, 20? Like he's in that upper echelon of top defensive players.
For sure he is. Yeah.
You weight that. Like, Jimmy talks about this all the time. It's an offensive league. To be a cornerstone player, you can't be Tony Allen. Even though he would be one of the best defensive players at that time. And if you came up with a more comparable player today, I don't know, who would it be? Royce O'Neal. He's probably a top 20, 25 defender. He's nowhere near this.
Like
list.
I said, I put Dylan Brooks
more important.
I put Dylan Brooks as a good comp. Dylan Brooks on both lists was around 80. This is a guy who can score, is also a very tenacious defender, a spark plug energy type guy. He's a very good smart comp who's a little younger, more athletic, and a little bit better offensively. And he's somewhere in the 80s or so. So I think Marcus Smart is closer to that. And again, he gets the nod for longevity, being around longer, being a winner, doing the winning plays, and all of those things.
Would you rather have Brooks than Smart?
I mean, I don't know.
There you go. Like there's something there, and
honestly, I would say yes, but and again, someone's saying Brooks is streaky. Marcus Smart shoots 37% over his career from he's not just
Marcus
streaky.
Smart's not streaky.
he's consistently bad. So again, I just don't think people grasp it. Marcus Smart is the worst volume shooter in the NBA over the course of his career. So it's that level of offense. He can make some clutch shots and this and that, but at the end of the day, he's 37-33 for his career. That's just who he is. So
Gordon Hayward's behind Smart on that ESPN list.
And Hayward is too. And again, Hayward's got to be an injury thing. But he's a really low. He's a low percentage, high volume shooter. And
so what do you think? What do you think it is? Because we're talking about experts here who say this year in and year out, and everybody.
I think there's some reputation. The same way Simmons probably. The same way Simmons, as you said, Bobby, benefits from some reputation. I think Smart does too. I think the aura of Smart is significant. If every player on his team says he's heart and soul, you see him constantly diving on the floor. The energy level is raised every time he guns on there. He gets every intangible point across the board. And I think
everybody's blown away by him and the energy and his tone setting. And we've talked about would a bad team want him just to establish a culture? And I think we saw that the Orlando Magic were interested in that at the last deadline, whether you believe that whole situation or not. I tend to think that there's an enormous amount of respect in him around the league. And I don't think it's delusional. I think teams sense the kind of value that he's brought here through contending teams, through teams that have made Eastern Conference Finals. And again, I know you threw some name that I didn't recognize out there earlier in terms of guys who have made conference finals, but it's not like Smart was the 10th most important player on those rosters. He was like 3rd or 4th, right up there. So again, you're right. He wouldn't be a 2nd most important player on a team, but we've seen him be 6-man level,
and again,
3rd, 4th. I think last year he probably reached up a little too high in terms of where he should be in terms of ranked importance on a team. But just below that, I think he's enormously impactful.
Look, you want him to be playing with a chip on his shoulder. You want him to show up this year in phenomenal shape. You want him to show up this year pissed off about how last year went. You want to show up this year with sense of purpose because he's the point guard and he has a very clearly defined role with a new coach that hopefully puts him in the best position to succeed. All of those things are true, and he could end up having the best year of his career, which would be great. However, again, you have to look at track record. A lot of people say he's a good distributor. Yes, true. However, Marcus Smart benefits from being a jack of all trades, which is to say he's not specifically judged on any one thing. If he were a straight shooting guard, he'd be a bad one because he's not a good shooter. If he were a straight point guard, I don't think he'd be in the upper echelon of distributing point guards in the NBA. Isn't that true for Ben
Simmons, though?
Huh?
I said that earlier.
But I want to see this year. It would be interesting if this year Smart became a 10 assist guy with high level defense. I do believe you would look at him a little. A lot of people would look at him differently.
Totally.
But this was a problem with him coming out of college. What is he? Is he a score first point guard? Is he a shooting guard that's not a dead-eye shooter? Who is he? He was kind of positionless, and I think that's what affected his draft stock and perception coming in when he stayed that extra year at Oklahoma State. Year before, he was being talked about for a number 1 overall pick. Then the next year, he was a bit of a wild card because people are like, I don't know where this guy's going to play.
Yeah.
And it's been the same way. What's up, Jimmy?
Jimmy?
Yeah. All these great things Bobby's saying about Marcus Smart, and I'm sure they're all true.
Yeah.
Highly regarded player, very respected, does everything right, the energy, the heart and soul of the team. Why won't the Celtics name him captain? He's a veteran. He's been
I don't think Brad believed in it.
Well, what about now?
It'll be interesting. I have so many questions.
Brad named Rondo captain. I mean, that might have just been to appease Rondo at the time when Brad first came in the league. But if all these things are true about Smart, he's not. No one's going to say, "Oh, he's the best player on the team." The captain doesn't have to be the best player on the team. He has to be the leader.
That's a great question, Jimmy. And
I think the team actually lacked leadership at many, many points last season and the season prior to that. And let's not forget the multiple, I'm not going to say meltdowns, but little issues that they've had in the playoffs and in situations where they've kind of needed a leader and they haven't really had one, at least as far as we know. So I wonder if that's going to be something that they announce at media day, or if they're just going to go another season without a captain. Because everything everyone says about Marcus Smart, he seems like he'd be the perfect captain on a team, and he's been on this team the entire way, and hasn't put that C on his chest yet.
That's a great question, Jimmy, and I know we're not going to talk again probably before media day, but just in terms of a new coach being in here, a new system, all these different things, different reporters have kind of tried to touch on it, and I think Ime's kind of played this. All right, there'll be some subtle differences, but mostly Brad, and that's kind of how Brad introduced Ime, so it hasn't been talked about too much, but we're really going into what could be like a whole new world for this team, just in terms of how people play, their roles, like how the coach manages games. Like this could be a completely different, or at least subtly different operation here. And I have so many different questions about how Ime is going to approach things compared to Brad there, and that's a big one. I obviously talked a little bit about Rob's role on the team is a huge one that John's concerned about too. But like I have so many questions just in terms of like how is the Ime Celtics going to be different than the Brad Celtics? That's like the story of next week, I feel like. I don't know, John, if you have like a big question that's burning in that regard too.
For the season?
Yeah, just how Ime is going to, like the Ime Celtics are going to be different than you. I think you threw one out there earlier. Will there be more mid-range shots?
I don't know who's doing what on this team yet. That's the thing. When you throw it all out there, I don't know how any of it fits. I don't know who is playing. You have, because of all the personnel turnover, you're going to have rotation questions, which sucks when you spend the first 20 games trying to look what the Celtics did last year, just trying to incorporate Tristan Thompson into the thing. And they went double big for 18 games and was like, what are you guys doing? You're playing two centers. You're playing your second and third best centers together. Like it's like what's wrong with you, right? It was the whole.
Those were dark days.
That was one thing. Now you're trying to figure out. Smart's the point guard, we think. Are you going to start double big? Are you going to go Schroeder with that second unit? If so, what happens to Pritchard's minutes? Is Richardson going to start? Or are you going to put Richardson on that second unit with Schroeder and not have really any shooters there? Who's your
Are Romeo and Grant going to play at all?
Are Romeo and Grant going to play at all? If Horford starts, who's your first big off the bench? Is it Cantor? Or
no, the rotation one's obvious, and those are burning questions.
All of it is. I don't know how you fit it right now because we don't know who does what well alongside whom.
No, I think those are questions for every team. When I see Brad going out and Ime coming in, like I think of the intangibles, like Jimmy just asked, like is there a captain? Do we believe in mid-range shots? Do we believe in a big rotation, a small, just like philosophical things as a coach? I really want to like get to know who Ime is, and I think Sherrod touched on this too when they hired him. He's been alongside some great head coaches, and he's done a brilliant job as an assistant coach, kind of parlaying their message to the players and being a great communicator for other coaches' messages. Who is Ime going to be as a coach?
Well, that's the thing. Imagine it starts getting away from him early. Imagine like a 5-9 start, and like it doesn't seem to be fitting well. Tatum and Brown are kind of out of sorts.
How does he handle the Heat?
You would love.
How do you handle that?
John just painted. That's John's ideal situation that everyone just heard right there. He just tipped his hand a little bit.
No, but I have so many questions. Like right off the bat, I'm gonna need like a one-on-one with him. It's burning.
Put the request in. I'm sure you'll get it.
But I can't wait for Monday. This season's going to be so intriguing. I think they have a chance to be really good. I know Zach Lowe kicked that around last week as well. I'm probably going to give a modest take in terms of what my expectation is for them, but this group is just so much more balanced. They have things they needed last year. Obviously, I think this year will be less tumultuous, you would hope, than last year, just with everything that went wrong. And I think the Kemba thing, addressing that was such a huge deal. And then getting Horford back in that regard, too, in turn, was a big deal, too. So I'm really excited about this group this year.
Okay. I'm sure you are.
That's one.
Next week, are we going to do our predictions like we did last year?
Sure. What do we do?
We got bashed. Remember I said like all the Celtics are like, I think the Pacers are better than the Celtics last year.
You and I had them
next week.
You and I had them between 5 and 7.
Oh, we nailed the rank. We nailed the placement.
We didn't have we had the Heat wrong.
We We had the Heat wrong. I had the Pacers
We
wrong
had the
because they got hurt.
We had the Heat clearly
I had the
ahead.
We
Sixers
didn't
very low.
have the Knicks where they were.
No, we had the Heat firmly as 4 or 3 in that upper. We had the Heat in the upper echelon with Brooklyn.
We were wrong in the
Milwaukee.
Raptors, like everybody else was, I think.
We had Brooklyn, Milwaukee, and Philly, obviously, and we put the Heat ahead of the Celtics.
No, I had Philly low. I had Philly as like an 8.
You did have
Philly
Philly low. Yeah,
That's
you
right.
did. You did.
And
yeah, that was good.
But they didn't finish low. They finished very high.
They were number
Don't
1.
forget.
Yeah. But
Bobby had the Raptors 1, the Raptors 2.
Yeah.
I had the Raptors modestly. Yeah.
The Raptors.
I guess,
what's up with the Raptors this year, Bob? No more.
He's hot.
Lowry, so
he's hopping on a Raptor report right after this with a bunch of other dudes.
Yeah. Hey, just letting you know, if they end up with Simmons, my whole outlook on him is going to turn. It really is.
I'm sure it will. Sure it will immediately.
Yeah,
I love. I was surprised they didn't go with Suggs, but the more and more I learn about the guy they did draft there was I'm excited about him and everything they got going on there too. But losing Lowry is tough. They're definitely in a transition point right now.
Yep.
You'll hear more of that on the Raptors report.
So just as a programming note for everybody before we wrap it up, as we said, training camps open up next week, which means there's more stuff going on. We're going to still be coming at you weekly. So we'll come back on Wednesday. We'll do another show on Wednesday, but then things are going to get serious and we're going to start some preseason post-game shows. Regular season is going to start sooner than we know it. And then it's freaking on. And here we go. Full tilt.
Next weekend, a week from this weekend, the preseason starts.
We have an actual preseason game. So we're back, baby.
I'm not even ready around. See ya. Next weekend?
Next weekend.
We're gonna have to get the schedule.
I've got a list of
the schedule, dude.
I've got Dudley ready to go. I've got Chris.
We need to work on our schedule.
I hear we're doing some Spaces stuff. Maybe
we will be taking our chat soon. That's an announcement TBD, but we do want to hear from you guys again. We miss you. So we are going to
rest in peace, locker room. Rest in peace.
Here's the
as far
the
as we know,
schedule.
It doesn't exist anymore.
A week from Monday, Jimmy. Fortunately for you, not next weekend. A week from Monday, so just after next weekend's the Magic.
Good.
Then
See
you
that
got the
John's
Raptors, Magic
scares
Heat.
into us, and
I didn't. Bobby said it.
I was off by a day.
A week from Monday. Okay, yeah. I'll be home for that.
All right. So we'll be back and we're going to start doing more shows and more shows. Bobby and I during the day, if there are news nuggets, you can look for pop-up garden reports live anytime anything happens that's worth talking about. Want to give one last go ahead, Jimmy, and one last shout out to
people in the chat. People in the chat are saying, should I delete locker room? No more locker room. I just said rest in peace locker room because locker room was bought out by Spotify Green Room and is now Spotify Green Room. So it's a little different now. I don't know if we're going to be using it. That's not my decision. That's up to John to tell us later. But I will say that I just miss locker room. That's all I'm going to say.
Can I say this too?
Yeah.
Unrelated. I am all in on the Red Sox. I'm going to be at Fenway all the time. I love this team, and they're getting hot at the right time.
The whole one-game playoff run, you're going to be in for that?
I am locked in and beyond. Yeah. I do not like Tampa, but we'll see where this goes. I like this team a lot.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you anything about the Sox. Couldn't care less.
Very quick, Schwarber's got two bombs tonight. I know that.
There's going to be 7 straight wins tonight, right?
Yeah. So just very quickly, as I said, we're back in full with the full cast next week.
Also, Bucks Patriots preview. I will be giving my Bucks takes.
Oh, nice. My Lord. John, you got to be queuing it up this week on the Patriots stuff. I am all in on that.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff. If you don't subscribe already, I imagine a lot of you guys are also Patriots fans. Make sure you follow us over on the Patriots YouTube channel and Patriots CLNS, where got a ton of stuff going all the time.
I used to be a Patriots fan.
Yeah, and
come on, Jimmy.
Nope.
And but Jimmy's gonna have a say, and he deserves it. He deserves his minute. Last shout out to our sponsor, Legends brand apparel. I'm wearing it. The other guys,
it's in the wash.
I'm actually washing mine tonight. Legitimately, I'll be wearing it.
I am too.
I'm going to the Vineyard this weekend. I'm going to bring the sweatshirt. Looks like it's going to be nice, but the nights get kind of chilly over there. I'll have the sweatshirt with me.
Yeah. But Legends brand.
That's
brand.
really
high
true.
praise.
That's
That's
actually
great
true.
praise.
It's good. Yeah. He's the smart guy is what they're basically saying. The other guys are the idiot.
John is still John on this show.
I'm the John on both. I'm the John both places. Yeah, but you're
I don't
the
even
Alex.
get invited to the Patriots show. I think Evan would murder me if I.
You're the Alex
spoke
Barth.
about football.
Yeah, you're the
Oh my
Alex
God.
Barth.
They'd pull up the film screen
Barth
and
Vader?
Jamie's head would be spinning.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
Love Barth.
Oh yeah, you want more shows, Julian? We might start doing some, but head over to Patriots Beat. Barth and Lazar are doing multiple shows a week, so you do get a lot of preview stuff there as well. Guys, thank you everybody for joining. It's always a treat to have you guys out here hanging out with us. And like I said, it's going to start getting interesting soon. So I'm psyched, to see more people fill in the room and more stuff to talk about. We've obviously had a little, lull in the action. So this is great. Yep. Legends.com, code Garden20. Go get some of this stuff. Help support our sponsors. It gives us an opportunity to do more of these shows, which is what we want to do. Bring more interesting people on the shows. If you're tired of me, I get it.
Totally.
Josue, hey, all of your Legends purchases sent Josue to Hawaii, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, we let him use the funds for that week of purchases.
Yeah, but it's Patriots Press Pass for the guys on the Patriots stuff. I see some people asking about it.
And you guys go on right after the games too, like we do for Celtics games. You guys go on the games right when the game ends.
Yeah, we do our Patriots post games as well. So that stuff is always good. But all of that stuff, Julian, thank you, buddy. We will see you guys. Pat stuff this weekend. We'll have another Garden Report coming up next week. But until then, Media Day Monday. We'll have reports from there.
Oh, I can't wait to overreact to everything for Media Day.
Yeah. We will.
Good.
But I want to see Rob. Show me Rob. Is he alive? Is he doing well?
John's not allowed to go to actual Media Day because we think he's going to embarrass us and scream out Rob's name when we get there. So he'll be watching.
Rob.
Bob going to be there?
Who?
Bobby.
We're working on it.
Yeah. We're getting we're getting the specs for how things are going to run there. So we're going to wrap it up, guys. We'll see you soon. Thanks everybody for hanging out.
Peace.